Too bad I didn't have a fife and drum. I could make an announcement on this one. We were JAN3, Roseman, California. Landlocked. Landlubber. Cruised only once in my life. It is January 3rd, 2022. In response to Mr. Barrett's passionate plea to the public, to the news media. And yes, the links will be sent out to Twitter, to all the news agencies at this point over here. It'll be my pleasure to give them something. A long time ago. Only one time in my life have I gone cruising. And that was with my big brother. And there was a story attached to this. My mother, and now we'll show you something. The woman in the picture and the other gentleman, my dearly departed, long time. My mother was a bookkeeping and income tax specialist. She had many clients in her time. One of them was a travel agency, an agent over there. And she saved his account like crazy. To the point where he rewarded my family a couple of cruises. This was during the time when Royal Caribbean actually had the ships coming out of Port of Los Angeles. Not to mention the Princess cruises as well. Before they got ate up by Carnival, I understood. And this happened back in 2002. Whoa, quick second, I want to show you a picture. Well, this was back in August of 2003. My mother had a ship sailing with a friend of hers, best friend, God rest her souls, on board the Sun Princess. Oh God, she was gorgeous. I gotta tell you the rest of the story, but first off, let me show you a picture of me and my brother when he was still alive. He was just recovering knee surgery, and he's out and about. This was on the ship of Monarch of the Seas. Story on this one. I'll tell you about the Monarch before, well, after the Sun Princess. When that client had given us the tickets for it, the information for it as well, he gave Ma overnight to get ready. This was like the last minute booking on board a cruise ship. Only time in my mother's life she'd ever been on a cruise ship. It was a 10-day Mexican Riviera run. 3 to 4 major ports, depending. And she talked to her friend, and her friend gathered some stuff. And my mother, and my brother, and I went over to shop for all the stuff she was going to need for 10 days. We must have had about an hour and a half or 2 hours of sleep during that time. Because the next thing we know, we're packing up the van, passenger van, and hauling butt to our friend's house across. We were living in the San Fernando Valley. We were both living in opposite ends, so it took us some time just to get over to her house. And we got her down, got the stuff packed, and headed over to the port of Los Angeles. Traffic was light, about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We didn't stop for breakfast, we just kept going. didn't know what to expect. So we arrived over at the port, and I'm looking at this gorgeous white pointed bow of a vixen with lines I've never seen before. She was the most beautiful craft I had ever seen created by man's hands on this. Sleek, light, smooth. Oh, she was making me drool out of the mouth. I didn't care if I was going to be using my clothing and washing it somewhere else, probably in the ocean water. I didn't care. I wanted that ship. I wanted it in the worst way. So, I'm making a fool of myself. And Dave said, will you knock it off? Dee's laughing her head off, her friend. This was like years before the trip took place in 2003. Rest your souls. The woman with her dark hair and the white outfit, that's Mary Dolores Butchus Reeve, my surrogate mother. And the other one is Ellen R. Shaw, but everyone called her Mary Ann. Her nickname was more popular than her regular name. And she was my mother. I miss them both. Anyway, so there they were. We're at the port. I'm still drooling and I'm still whining because I want that ship. I want to walk across its bow. I want to walk in whatever it is I could walk in that ship. She was singing to me like a blasted siren. I thought Odysseus was going to go crazy. If he happened to see this particular ship, he'd probably see nothing but sirens all over the ship, singing out for their passengers and their prey. And I felt like it was one of them. It wasn't meant to be. They left. And my brother and I had to endure 10 days of pure bliss away from home. When she came back and they were telling us all what was going on, I was drooling. I was jealous. I was envious. I knew our time was coming up, and it was going to be a short trip. August was coming up, and there was a sailing on board the Monarch of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. When David and I actually had the time, and we had cleared everything else off our calendar just for the weekend. We got our gear, we got our bags, and we headed off towards the port. And I saw this, what the same hoses. I'm looking up and down the ship as we're approaching the port. I'm looking at this thing and I can't even describe what I am looking at, because this particular ship I had never seen before. This particular ship was, I thought it was ugly to the bone. Compared to what I saw, I looked at the outside of it, but not her charms. Not her charms. Oh God, she was beautiful. I have a few pictures of her. I'm still trying to. It's not much. And then again, technology the way it was, if I actually had smartphones, I'd actually do a better job than that. But this was the Monarch of the Seas, which I understand she's currently scrapped. So much for having a reunion cruise on a ship. Let me Probably having it on a ghost ship. Anyway, we sailed. We were on this ship. For the first time in my life, I'd actually been on a cruise ship. There's another side story on this one. Have you folks heard of Red Skeleton? My brother and I were listening to a radio program, and it was off of tape, actually, regarding Mr. Skeleton's wonderful skits. One of them happened to deal with two seagulls, Gertrude and Heathcliff. These two seagulls are at the port, watching as two guys in a smaller boat are working. Heathcliff, yeah, Gertrude, what you three down here? I don't know, what are they? Two dinghies and a dinghy. My brother and I heard the joke. I think I got it. When we heard the joke, we were laughing our asses off in the car. When we got up to the top level where the Windjammer Cafe was, we had gotten our meal and we went over to the bow of the ship, looking at the maintenance area where the dock was at, where the bow was feet away. We saw it priceless, and unfortunately, we didn't have the damn camera, because right above them, sitting on a perch, was two seagulls. My brother and I are laughing our asses off. We're seeing Heathcliff and Gertrude talking about the two dock workers down below on the dinghy in front of the ship. We must have had about 20 people looking at us, wondering if we lost our minds, until we reminded them of who Red Skeleton was and of the skit we heard. And we said it verbatim as we heard it on the radio. We must have had about more than 20 people laughing their asses off. It was one of the most memorable things about this cruise, is how many people you can actually get involved with just by telling a joke and a situation happening in front of them to start the cruise off right. No grumbling, no griping, pure enjoyment. From that point on, we thought this trip was going to be out of sight. I relaxed a little bit. I didn't realize how many wonderful people would be showing up in this place. I had forgotten their names, but I never forgotten their pictures. They may be nameless for some, but at the time, they were necessities. Our cabin steward, the sales clerk down below, and a time spent abroad. Pictures like these are they're priceless. They are memories. For me personally, if you had noticed the title that I have for my name, it is because I hold on to those memories tight. Because you're that special and that heartwarming. I had wished I had gone back on the ship again in order to get a pet. Unfortunately, being mentally men we are, well, there must be something wrong with this cabin. Is it the cabin? Or is our lust for adventure just for 3 days that we needed to cram everything into it? Our first and only stop would be Ensenada. Ensenada, a place of wonder, a place that kind of reminded me of TJ, Tijuana. And we had gotten the package of the shopping trip and the cultural dances that they had. The dances were exquisite. But our shopping trip wasn't exactly just for souvenirs, it was for a time. See, we were told that there was only one formal night on the ship. And we needed a tie for it, and their collection of ties looked like something you definitely needed to go off ship to get another one. We had gone through several stores in the tourist area, and we were supposed to be hanging around the area for 2-3 hours before we got picked up and taken to see the cultural, see the dances and the music. But before we did that, a word of caution I must ask. A word of caution I must pass. When you are checking your funds, do them on ship in your cabin. Do not flash anything. There are wolves. Two-legged, opportunistic, and very interested in tourism. Especially when they go off the beaten path to a nearby department store for purchases, including a tie. My brother made the mistake, checking the cash before we got into the store. It would have been better if he had brought over a Roman flare, or at least shouted and flashed it in the sky. These guys were following us, and when they saw we had money, we went over to the store. We had gotten the tie, and then we had to rush back. Now, take this into consideration. My brother had knee surgery about a week or two earlier. So he wasn't very hobbling very fast, but fast enough. We ditched into a restaurant, and we lost track of him. And we came back over to the tourist area and felt relieved. I got myself another sarabi. So did he. The tourist bus came. We saw the arts, we saw the crafts, we saw parts of Ensenada that kind of reminded me of Tijuana, the touristy area. And a little bit about the Point, Sun Valley, Arleta, San Fernando. A few neighborhoods of the San Fernando Valley itself. I used to live in those areas. Long time ago. The next day was just a sea day. The pictures I showed you concerning about the pilot's room, that was sea day. We were walking around all over the place. We were enjoying ourselves for that time, and then the next day, we were going to be back home. That was it. The adventure was gone. as soon as we hit the disembarkation, and we went through customs. That's it. Never again to set foot on an outgoing vessel together. Never to enjoy another cruise. My brother had already done time on the water as it is. He had been in the United States Navy. He had been a boiler technician. He had been in many other things. He had spent enough time being a squid and more. He wasn't afraid of the water, and neither was I. He had taught me how to dress fast with a life jacket. Now, during that time, he saw me how I was more skinnier. But on the run, you throw that thing on and you're putting it on left and right. And my brother timed me. And he kept working with me until we actually had the call. As we were leaving, we were doing it by memory. The vests were on as soon as we hit the door. It wasn't just standing there just trying to do things. No, we were rushing to the door, got the thing on seconds flat. We had seen other people struggling in the corridor, trying to find where they're going and struggling to get their life vests on. When they did muster call, they did muster call. And we were helping people along getting the life vests on before the ship sailed away from the port of Los Angeles. We even helped a young kid find his parents, because in the crowd of people in the corridor, they got separated. And when the kid finally found his parents, that was something that still strikes a chord. Family is important. I will never see her again, but she lives in memories, she lives in pictures, she lives in here. She won my heart during that trip. Oh, she may have contained maybe about 1,500, maybe less than that, but she was gorgeous herself. And if she was still alive, and in whole and dock, I'd find a way to sail on her again. Cruising, once it gets into your blood, it never leaves you. I had read magazines after that, looking at the ships, looking at the insides, the interiors. It wasn't the food I was looking at, it was beds. I'm looking at where they were going, looking at the different camera angles, looking where the videos were showing people. All I wanted to do was be at the bow of each of those ships and sail along with them. People go for the cruising adventure, but they have to have it deep in their blood. That they belong out in the sea. And to be a little, well, a lot off base. It seems King Neptune still requires my presence out there. And I have yet to go. I'm chomping at the bits. He's calling, and I gotta respond to King Neptune. Which means I must Sail once more. I must sail those broad waters. The life that exists on top. The foam that caresses everyone else's cheeks rises up past the hull as the ship battles its way through the waters. You know when you're up early in the morning, about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning is when the light is barely coming across the horizon in front of you. And in the shadows you see the destination. But the experience of that early morning light, the stillness of the water, barely hear the ship sail as it silently glides through it. There's nothing like it. Nothing. Anyway, I've taken too much of your time. But I hope and I pray cruising continues. There are many adventures out there.